127 defeat to the Toronto Raptors on Sunday afternoon. Man, just brutal. Just another. I'm losing count of how many horror losses you can pile on yourself in one season or through the first third of the season. Two really big things from this game. Obviously, the turnover issues, which are always an issue, but man, like the complete inability to handle any of Toronto's defensive pressure and double teams and stuff like that was just glaring. I tweeted it out in the first quarter. Just rereading a tweet here. I said, Raptors playing with the kind of defensive energy where I'm already preparing myself for a bunch of BS Warrior turnovers. And that proved the case. That stretch late in the third quarter where they turned it over 3 times in a row and Toronto went on an 8-0 run to get it from 12 back to 4 was disastrous. And then obviously fourth quarter, you build it back up to 12. You have a 110-98 lead. And then just, again, some of the turnover issues. Once Toronto applied any kind of defensive pressure, just horrible. And I'm not really sure what the fix is because some of this is just a personnel issue. Like, there's not many guys on the team who legitimately are reliable ball handlers and you feel comfortable bringing the ball up the floor. Like that one late in the third quarter where GP2 is just bringing the ball up the floor and just falls over. Just flat out falls over. And it's like, well, that's ugly on GP2, but why is he the one having to bring the ball up the floor in the first place? Well, there's not really anyone else. If they're going to load up on Steph and Jimmy and even Draymond, I suppose, then who else is it? Pods a little bit maybe, but man, like when Moody and Richard are getting double teamed, it's like, well, this is going to be a turnover or a jump ball or something like that. So I don't know where the fix is necessarily with that, aside from Steve obviously putting the onus on himself a little bit in the press conference there and saying that he's got to get the team a little bit more organized. And then in terms of Steve Kerr and his rotations, went really small to kind of match Toronto in scan. The Raptors played without a legitimate center. Really, Scotty Barnes was their starting big man, and then they had Mamu coming off the bench as like another small ball 5. No Jakob Poeltl, no other legitimate big man in this game. And Steve would rightfully look at that and kind of justify the decision to not play big and to play Draymond a heap as a small ball 5. But as I tweeted out there kind of in overtime, just because the other team is not going big and not playing a center, that doesn't automatically mean you have to. You can still play big. And it feels like Steve, whenever the opposing coach is like, I'm going small, Steve's almost like, great news, because I've been playing small for 10 years and this is always beneficial to us. Well, no, it's not always beneficial to you. And the Raptors won that game in overtime starting out because Scotty Barnes was just relentless on the offensive glass, and the Warriors just didn't have a solid rebounder on the floor, nor did they have a genuine 7-footer on the floor or anyone that could really oppose Scotty Barnes, who had 9 offensive rebounds and, get this, 25 rebounds in the game. Scotty Barnes had 25 rebounds. How is that possible? Someone that will never happen again in Scotty Barnes' career. Scotty Barnes is never having 25 rebounds again in his career. What was his rebounding career high before this? Like high teens, maybe? I'm looking it up right now. Scotty Barnes' career high rebounds. Was it? I think he got to like 17 and that was like the record. I'm trying to have a look here. 17 against the Lakers in 2022. He just had 25. That's like, man, it's hilarious. And Steve just said there in the press conference that he went away from TJD because of the game, right? Because of how Toronto were playing. And I just don't really love that. Even if the Warriors had won, I've already started writing an article, and I did so early in the fourth quarter once I knew that TJD was going to be out of the rotation. I started writing an article that'll be up in a few hours just about the wrong choice there, essentially. Even if, and at that point, the Warriors were up by 10 and were probably going to win the game. And I was still writing on the fact that, hang on, this is really undeserved because the Warriors have been good in TJD's minutes and TJD has been good over the last 8 games or so. Okay, sometimes you've just got to reward guys that are playing well, and TJD's been playing well. Now, he did come up on the injury report with an illness, but he was made available, and Steve confirmed in that the reporter said, "Oh, was TJD a late scratch?" And he's like, "No, he was available. We just didn't go to him because of how the game was panning out." Well, that kind of hurt you in the end because you weren't obviously going to bring TJD into play overtime when you hadn't played all in regulation. Okay, I understand that, but surely you could have given him some minutes during regulation to prepare him for a moment like that where you are just getting beat up on the boards. Like Toronto had 70 points in the paint to 40, right? Plus 30 points in the paint. Could Trace Jackson Davis made a difference in that statistic? I would have thought so. Okay, and I'm not TJD's biggest fan, right? I think he's got real limitations as a player. I'm not his biggest fan, but I do admit, I suppose, that he has re-emerged in slightly surprising fashion over the last 7 or 8 games. And if I was Steve Kerr, I would have given him minutes in this game, despite the fact that Toronto went small. Again, doesn't mean you have to match up. Okay? This is not 2017, 2018, where it's the death lineup and Golden State will just absolutely kill anybody who wants to go small and try and match them. This is 2020, nearly 2026, late 2025, right? And you've got to be able to manipulate things and adjust a little bit quicker, I would have thought, to what the other team is throwing at you and acknowledging that, hey, our small ball lineups aren't as devastating to opposing teams as they once were back in the day. So I'm just really disappointed, obviously, with the turnovers, and then the complete lack of Trace Jackson Davis, must be said, and the lack of, so Horford played his allotted minutes, which were 17 on a minutes restriction of 17, which isn't ideal, and he's not playing tomorrow. Like, could we have been a little bit more flexible? Maybe just get him up to 20, let him play an extra 3 minutes, because Horford was actually pretty good in this game. 7 points, 7 rebounds, 2 excellent block shots. 3 of 6 shooting. I thought Horford was decent. Post had an excellent start, 8 points in the first quarter, then did absolute sweet bugger all after that. I think he didn't score 2 turnovers, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. Only played 18 minutes, to be fair. So 18 and 17, that's 35 minutes of a 53-minute game. So 18 minutes essentially with Draymond Green as a small ball 5. I don't love that, must be said. All right, comments here. Carlton says, Kerr playing small ball sucked the air out of the team. I reckon all this stuff is going to be reflective of what I just said. Dan Decker says, let Barnes get 25 rebounds. Really up 7 with 1:43 minute left, and we still choked. Yeah, well, that's actually probably, I pointed to being up 12 with like 8 minutes left. But yeah, that's actually a good point. It was, Steph hit that. Was it a 2? I think it was. No, sorry, it was a 3. Yeah, he hit a 3 with 1:43 left. 121-13. And the Warriors scored 7 points for the rest of regulation and overtime, obviously. Barnes dunk, Richard turnover, Ingram pull-up jumper, Draymond turnover, quickly 3. So you're up 7, you let Barnes get a dunk, then you have back-to-back turnovers, and suddenly it's a tie game. Pods obviously puts us back up with the layup off the Steph miss. Barnes, offensive board from the Ingram miss. Warriors just standing around. Barnes tips it in. Steph has that offensive foul, which I think was just the right call with 2.4 seconds remaining. Draymond forced Ingram into a miss, but it didn't matter. The Raptors had the momentum by that point and absolutely killed the Warriors in overtime. Empire says we have 3 centers and Curry's played none of them in OT. There's no point trading for a center if Curry isn't going to play them. Well, he played post for a couple of minutes in overtime, but that was once the game was done and the momentum was all gone essentially. So I'm just really disappointed because there's times where it's like none of these guys are playing well. Like none of the center options are playing well, so I can kind of understand it. But like they're actually playing all right. Post is playing all right. His defense is obviously been drastically improved this season. Horford's return over these last 2 games has been good. Very good, I would say. And then obviously Trace has reemerged and has been quite impactful on both ends of the floor at times over the last 8 games. So it's not as if these guys are playing terribly. Like they are legitimate rotation options. And Steve was very complimentary of those guys after the Christmas Day game against the Mavericks, where the Warriors obviously pulled out a really good win. And those three guys all played well, including, I think Trace had 10 points, 5 rebounds in like 12 minutes or whatever. Horford obviously did his thing with the 4 threes in the first quarter. Like, they're all playing well. And you're so complimentary of them. Yet as soon as an opposing coach goes small, you feel the need to do the same thing. And it's like, man, it's not 2017, 2018 anymore. It's nearly 2026. We need to move past that and be able to adjust and go bigger when the game calls for it. And I want to see, instead of seeing more Draymond at small ball 5, I want to see more like double big lineups. Now I can imagine not going to a double big lineup in this game when the Raptors don't have a legitimate center. Like, I get that, but you can still play a legit big all the time, and you could even trial some double big lineups like we saw in the first quarter of that Christmas Day game where they had Horford and Trace together. So yeah, that's what I would like. I want to see more double big than I do Draymond at the 5. So I don't know. It's uber frustrating, and we all understand. We all understand that's just the case. And Steph and Dre 2-man game doesn't work anymore. 6 and 11 in clutch games this season, 55 last 3 seasons. We are perfectly mid. Can't argue with statistics at the end of the day. Finally caught another live. Got off work to watch the last 2 minutes in overtime. I should have kept working, says Just Blow. Yes. Probably, I mean, some of these games are hard to watch. I had a mate message me. He was basically just complaining and saying that these games are a hard watch, which they are. Like, there's enough talent on this team to just beat teams like this. Like Toronto, okay, give them some credit. They played with energy. They rebounded hard. They increased their defensive tenacity. Fine, cool, whatever. I mean, this team won 4 of their last 13 games going into this, including a last start loss by 21 to the Washington freaking Wizards, right? Like, you are good enough to beat this team. And yet, you can't make it happen. Like, you're up 7 with 1:43 to go. Up 12 in the 4th. And you melt down like that. Like, come on. Way too small. Draymond looked like he just gave up at the end. Draymond's a really good defender, and he's been a reasonable rebounder at times in the past, but he's not a great rebounder necessarily. Didn't Kerr say he's not starting out so he can close games? What happened to that? Well, minutes restriction, apparently. Apparently he was at 17 and that was it. We went to OT and lost. We have a back-to-back. That's the most painful thing about this is now you lose that game, which was essentially with 1:43 to go. That was ticked off as a win. You go to overtime, which is a problem on the first night of a back-to-back anyway. Then you lose, and now you got to face a Brooklyn team that is actually like, it's kind of a nervy game now. Makes me a little bit anxious. It's a bit tricky. And so, like, imagine playing Toronto and Brooklyn in a back-to-back and losing both. That'd be an absolute nightmare. But, I mean, we'll see what happens tomorrow. But, geez. Like, I don't know. Send Moody, Buddy, and Kerr to Taiwan, says Empire. Buddy back in the rotation in this game with no DeAnthony Melton, who will play tomorrow. Horford won't play tomorrow. And then Buddy obviously getting those Melton minutes and not really doing enough to warrant more minutes going forward, you would say. He had that one, like a horrible turnover. I think it was in the third quarter. Healed 14 minutes, 1 of 2 from 3-point range, 3 rebounds and assist. Just not a whole lot from Buddy Hield to suggest he'll remain in the rotation moving forward. Robbie says the way to get out of traps is to have teammates come to you to make simple passes, but Steve decided not to say anything and let them throw cross-court passes to get stolen. Shouldn't have gone to OT. Completely agree with that. Needed one more rebound from Draymond for the parlay. He gave up. Don't be one of those dudes that message athletes on social media complaining, though. The Drip says Guy Santos should have played. We can play midget ball and we can't play midget ball and expect to win. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I'm wondering, like, should Guy be ahead of like GP2 just for like some of the size legitimacy, I suppose, at times. And Guy's a better 3-point shooter Then there's I'm just going to assume Kuminga's not playing ever again. Like, genuinely, I think Jonathan Kuminga might have played his last game for the Warriors. Because, again, that's kind of game against a lengthy athletic team where it's like, yeah, I could probably do with the young 6'8" forward who's athletic, who's making $22.5 million on the bench. But I feel like that's just come and gone. Stevie says, I wonder how this can be blamed on Draymond. Well, Draymond's shooting at least came around in this game, 4 of 8 from 3-point range. Again, 4 rebounds from your guy who's playing as a small ball 5 for 18 minutes in the game. Not ideal. I actually feel bad for Draymond because I was looking at it at one point. I was like, I've been following his plus minus because he still hasn't recorded a positive plus minus this season. Like, even in that Mavs game, you win by 10. I think Draymond was still a negative in that game. And I looked at it and like in the fourth quarter and he was like a plus 13. I was like, yep, Draymond's finally going to do it. He's finally going to be a positive in a game this month. And then I checked at the end, he's a -2. Just like another negative game from Dray. So this is Draymond Green in the month of December. -17, -10, misses 3 games, -12, -10, -6, -5, -9, now -2. Has not been a positive plus minus in a game this month, which is just a remarkable statistic, really. Particularly when the Warriors, when you look at it, like he plays in a game in Philly they should have won and they lost by 1. Like they lose by 5 to Portland, they lose by 1 to Phoenix, they win 3 straight games, and then they should have won this game. So like the Warriors from an overall standpoint have actually been kind of a winning team this month. And Draymond just has not recorded a single positive plus minus in any game. Like it's just, yeah, it's wild. Just Blow says that Steph offensive foul was complete BS. Well, I suppose the call is like, does the defender in that, like, does the defender have to get out of the offensive player's space in that game? Like, does Shed, I think it was Shed was on him, right? Does he have to give Steph room to be able to swing the ball up and around like that? Or can he just put his face in there and get clocked, right? It's a tough one. Because the action itself, you hit a guy in the face, that's an offensive foul, right? But I think we do have to, like, if that gets review, if the Warriors had a review, which they wasted their review on a silly one in the first half, if they had a review and that goes, like, do they say, well, you're in the offensive player's space and you've got to give him room? It's kind of like that one where, like, if a player jumps up to catch the ball, you've got to give him space to land. So even if you're standing there still as a statue taking a charge, like, you have to give him like a step to be able to land. Is that like a similar thing to this? I don't know. I will see if this is one of those things where it could have gone either way. And there's no way we're going to get the last 2-minute report. There's no way the NBA comes out and says that's the wrong decision. Like they won't say that's the wrong decision, but you could argue that it was. That's why we need a new coach. Curry stuck in the past. It's not other teams going small. It's us going tiny. Gigi's better size, a better shooter, and better energy than GP2. We're genuinely better with Dre. Never thought I'd see the day he scores and we lose. Good point. Yeah. I mean, when was the last time Draymond had 20 in a loss? You'd have to look that up. I'd imagine it's been a while. In terms of, yeah, like we obviously like to play, Steve likes to play tiny as it is, but recently, like, it feels like you should have a little bit more legitimate size when all your big men are actually playing okay at the one time. Like the Warriors have literally a kind of a 3-headed center rotation with Post, TJD, and Horford, which when they're healthy means to me that Draymond should not play a single second at the 5. Like you need 48 minutes out of your 3 centers. Like they are capable of doing that right now. And instead in this game, yes, it goes to overtime, but you have 18 minutes from Draymond as a small ball 5. Okay. And I almost don't care who you're coming up against. Like those 3 guys are all good enough to be in the rotation and combine to play 48 minutes. That regardless of kind of who the match. I know you've got to be able to move quickly, I suppose, and adjust to in-game situations. But like part of it to me is like Trace has played well. Like reward the guys that are playing well. Okay, you're a plus 32 in his minutes over the last 8 games. Okay, he's been a positive for this team. So even if the Raptors going small and you don't need to play Trace Jackson Davis necessarily, I would have still rewarded him with minutes. Okay, based on what he's been doing recently. Okay, it's almost just like it's like an ethical debate, I suppose. It's like, okay, the game's not necessarily calling for it, but should I be rewarding the guy who's been playing well? Like, I think there's a genuine argument for that. And in the end, you get to overtime and Scotty Barnes is just out rebounding the crap out of you on every possession. It's like, okay, well, now we actually do need a center. Geez, it would have been nice to at least have Trace as an option in this moment, but we didn't make him an option because we didn't give him any minutes in regulation. Simple as that. Alrighty, guys. Been going for 20 minutes here. I might do another one tomorrow. I'm not sure there's too much else. We haven't really spoken about the offensive side in terms of scoring. Steph had 39. Kind of like the Warriors faded late in this game. He ended up 12 of 30, 40% from the field, 4 of 11 from three-point range. Obviously, the Raptors were often top blocking him, and the offense actually looked reasonable at times where Steph was kind of just backdoor cutting all the time, and Draymond was, finding him a little bit. Draymond had 7 assists in this game, so they did well at times through that, but it just faded, I suppose, when it got to the most important minutes late. And again, once the Raptors put a little bit more pressure on up the floor in terms of full court pressure, double team, stuff like that, then that became a whole lot more effective than just top blocking Steph on, random actions kind of thing, and Steph just being able to backdoor and get a number of layups and get into the free throw line on 11 occasions. Jimmy, 19 points, only 6 of 16, not his greatest game. Draymond again found his shooting rhythm, had 4 threes, I think, all made second, third quarters. 21 points again. I'd like to know the last time Draymond had 20 in a Warrior loss. Don't know. Again, not much outside of those guys. Pods, 13 points. I thought, okay, he was a minus 23 in this game. I thought he was played pretty well again. 5 of 9 shooting from the floor, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. So Pods was okay. Richard had 10 points in this game, but was only 1 of 5 from three-point range in 35. Well, Richard played 35 minutes off the bench, which is wild. Moody, an absolute 0, 3 points, 6 rebounds, 1 of 6, 1 of 4 in 29 minutes. Again, the consistency with Moses Moody is just, it's been going on the whole season. Like, it really has been going on the whole season, where this guy can be really good for you and can be really impactful. And then other nights he can just be a complete 0. And this was kind of a 0 game from him, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, this team needs a move. There's no doubt about that. I feel like even over this 3-game winning streak they've just had, still feel the same about that. Obviously, you've got Kuminga's $22.5 million salary. You've got Buddy Hield's $9.2 million salary. The Warriors should be bringing in a $30 million player at least. And if you want to throw Moody into the mix, Moody's so weird because, again, after a game like this, you think, well, you could easily give up Moses Moody in a trade. You shouldn't necessarily be holding on to him. But then in games he plays well. It's like, man, he's a legitimate starter for you who's on a really team-friendly contract. So that's the problem with Moses Moody's inconsistencies. It's hard to evaluate where his value should lie in terms of keeping him in or out of a trade, because obviously that makes quite a difference. Like, if you want to go out and get Michael Porter Jr., for example, who the Warriors will see tomorrow, like, that's obviously you're going to have to give up Moody in the trade to make the salaries work. If you're going to want to get to, I don't know, any other player making that $40 million range without giving up Draymond, you're going to have to give up Moses Moody. So, I mean, that's the thing. That's, Kuminga, Buddy Hield, Moody, that's like $40+ million in salary, right? And the Warriors could easily make a 3-for-1 trade here or something like that to go and get a star player. Who that is, we obviously had the Anthony Davis reports from Chris Haynes on Friday that I haven't spoken about on here yet. He mentioned that the Warriors are contemplating a move for Anthony Davis. I'm not trading Jimmy Butler for Anthony Davis whatsoever, particularly when the Mavericks would assume also want draft capital involved in that. I'm not doing it. I think I'm not completely off Anthony Davis. Like, a lot of Warrior fans would look at his injury history combined with the contract and think, well, no, I'm just not trading for Anthony Davis. Okay. And I can understand that argument. you would have to be like, surely you guys are somewhat intrigued by the thought of Steph Curry playing with like an all-star level big man who is like, could be like 25 and 15 for you and a genuine shot blocker. Like, that's intriguing, isn't it? Even if it's Anthony Davis rather than Giannis Antetokounmpo, okay, who's obviously the dream target. I don't know. It's intriguing to me, and if it was a cheapish price where it's like, and there's no such thing as a cheapish price when the guy's making over $50 million, but you can do Draymond, Kuminga, Healed, and a pick for Anthony Davis. Like, if you that's the kind of package. Now, are the Mavericks accepting that? Probably not. But that's probably as far as I would go. I'd probably give up Draymond, honestly. Because this team's just like, with Draymond, this team's just mid right now. Like, it's 500. So if you can go and get Trey Murphy III and keep Draymond, or Michael Porter Jr. and keep Draymond, then okay, maybe that gives you something. But if you can't do either of those guys and your kind of only option is Anthony Davis, but you've got to give up Draymond, it's like, well, where are we really going anyway? So is it worth? Would it be worth giving up Draymond for Anthony Davis? I don't know. I would probably, as long as you're only, like, I would only give up next year's pick, essentially. I wouldn't give up any future picks, right, for Anthony Davis, which, again, the Mavericks will be like, probably piss off, see you later. We don't want a bar of that. We want more picks, and we don't really have interest in Draymond or Kuminga. And I'd be like, okay, well, no deal then. Simple as that. So I'd be interested in Anthony Davis, but at a reasonably low cost, very, very similar to the Jimmy trade, where it's like, I wasn't all in on Jimmy, to be honest, but I could understand why they did it, because one, they were a mid team at like 500, below 500, when they acquired him. And secondly, the price, like, he just flat out, just clearly things went south in Miami, and so far south that you got him at a price where it was quite a lot cheaper from a trade standpoint, not a contract standpoint, because obviously you had to give him a fairly healthy extension. But from a trade standpoint, that was clearly a very cheap price to pay for a top 25 player in the NBA. And I just think if you can do the same with Anthony Davis for a different reason, not because he's blowing things up in Dallas and he's demanding out, but because of the injury issues, and we saw him again get injured on Christmas Day, then it'd be worth considering that to me, and doing like a 3-for-1, Kuminga, Draymond, Healed, and a pick for Anthony Davis. And again, Dallas are probably like, no, like, we've got better offers out there, or we'll just keep Anthony Davis. And I'll be like, fine, whatever. We'll keep Draymond. We won't keep Kuminga and Healed because they'll probably go in another trade. But yeah, I'm intrigued by Anthony Davis is all I'm going to say. I'm not saying a flat out no, because I think we forget with the injury issues, this guy is still really, really good. Like, before he got injured against the Warriors on Christmas, he had 35 and 31-point games. I think 3 of the previous 4 before he got injured, he'd had 14-plus rebounds. Like, great rim protector. Steph has never had a guy truly capable of taking advantage of his gravity in terms of interior scoring. Like, when was the last time they had a genuine all-star big man like that? Like, you could say, oh, Jimmy's an interior scorer. Well, yeah, kind of, and he gets to the free throw line, but he also likes to play facilitator a lot more so than just pure scorer. And AD, like, will put the ball in the bucket, right? Again, does $350+ million players work? Probably not, but you would just tell yourself that we're doing it for the rest of this season and next season, and then we can reevaluate, because all the guys are out of contract beyond that. Or does Davis have a player option for the following season? I'm not sure. Anyway, Berserk Monk, how can Kerr see this team get bullied on the boards by Scotty and decide not to play TJD or Gee, but decides to throw in GP to him, buddy? Cody says, I heard Butler and Moore traded for AD. No, he can't stay healthy at all. Green is going to cost you because he's going to get his fair share of turnovers and lose the games for you. It's been problematic this month for Draymond Green, no doubt. I'm not giving up Jimmy for AD. I'm just not doing it. I can you argue that AD is a better player than Jimmy? Yeah, absolutely. But at least Jimmy's going to be on the floor for at least 3/4 of the season, right? Berserk Monk says, I think the best solution is to go and get both Wiggins and Herb Jones. That'd be interesting. A small ball lineup of Steph, Wiggins, Jimmy, Herb, and Draymond is a small lineup I could live with. Yeah, I agree. Cody says Curry needs help scoring. You trade Jimmy for AD. Curry will definitely have to carry the team again because AD will be on the bench all season hurt. Well, that's why, again, that's another reason why I'm not trading Jimmy for AD. I'm trading. The news I saw said Jimmy for AD, not Green. Maybe my news source was wrong. Did you hear the same? Yeah, Chris Haynes at the end of the report said something like trying to get more support for Steph Curry and Draymond Green, which made it sound like it was going to be Jimmy as part of the trade for AD. That's just, to me, that's going sideways. Honestly, that's not really improving your team, I don't think. Not in a meaningful enough way for this roster right now. And I just think there's a lot more downside as well because now you've got a second star who is incredibly injury prone and might not be on the floor a whole lot. And as you said, when AD's off the floor, like that's just going to put more pressure on Steph. So if you were to trade Draymond and JK and Healed as part of the salary matching for AD, then you bring AD in. I think it drastically improves your upside. Like then you can become, I think, if AD was healthy, then you become a potential threat in the league, like a legitimate threat. And you also kind of don't have the same downside because if AD misses games, well, at least you've still got Steph and Jimmy, right? So that's to me. I just would not be trading Jimmy Butler for Anthony Davis whatsoever. The package I lay out with Draymond, JK, Buddy, and a pick, I could understand that. So long as it's only one pick and it's not a future pick beyond Steph. And again, Dallas probably say no to that, but that's just what I would offer up, I suppose. And there'd have to be a third team involved like Brooklyn or whatever because both teams are over the first apron. They can't take back more money. So it would get a little bit complicated with a multi-team trade. But we saw the Butler trade was like a 4-team trade or whatever last season. So it's possible. Green has to go, man. I almost fell over when I seen him score all those points tonight. Steezy says this team is failing because the front office failed in the draft year after year. No reliable young players outside of Richard, and he needs to learn some on the job still. Yeah, the drafting hasn't been great. I mean, getting Pods at 19 is still good. And their picks in the 50s, getting Trace, QP, and Richard is good. But obviously the top end, the Wiseman, the Kuminga, and to a lesser extent the Moody picks. I mean, the Moody pick even looks horrific because after him you've got Trey Murphy, Alperen Şengün, both taken after Moses Moody. So yeah, that's rough, and it's interesting that they've had so many issues with high end lottery picks, and yet they are not willing to give up their future picks. Obviously, banking on the fact that, hey, if we end up taking those picks, we can replenish and maybe get another franchise star post Steph Curry. But I think at some point, you've also got to realize Steph is one of one. You're probably not going to get another player like this in the next 50 years. Maybe give up some picks to try and prioritize Steph. Berserk says, I'd only trade Jimmy for Giannis. Yeah. I'd do it for Giannis, yes, but no, not for AD. Why chance at getting AD, get another scorer? I like how Melton is doing. They missed him tonight, and you got Seth to help. I'm going for Claxton to help on defense. They've got a top. I mean, their defense wasn't great in this game. They give up 141 points, but their defense is like top 3 in the league. I don't think they need to go and get another defender. Okay, like I think their defense is fine. They need another guy who can take the pressure off Steph, who can put the ball in the basket on a consistent basis, and Anthony Davis can certainly do that. And Anthony Davis also helps you on defense a lot and helps you rebounding. Like a healthy version of Anthony Davis makes his team better in all kinds of elements, right? And that's why again, if it's not for Jimmy, that's why I could kind of live with it. It's a huge risk. Don't get me wrong. It's a huge risk. But if the risk is mitigated because the trade price, like what you're trading isn't necessarily too substantial, then I can be on board with that. Anyway, I'm going to finish it up there, guys. We'll see if we do another live stream tomorrow. I might get Stevie on this week as well, get his thoughts on the AD trade reports and stuff like that as well. Thanks to those of you that have tuned in, and thanks to those of you that are listening on the podcast afterwards as well. Much appreciated. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel already, that would be greatly appreciated. Follow me at POC252. That's POK252 on X/Twitter. Cody says, doesn't Claxton score as well, though? Well, he's not a guy you're going to put the ball in the hands of and get him to make plays. Like he's his playmaking this season has been good. So you could utilize him in kind of split cut actions in post up situations, stuff like that. But he's not putting, like, he's a 13-point per game scorer. Like he's not going out and getting 20 for you. So you need another guy who you can reliably put the ball in the hands of to make plays. And Anthony Davis can do that, and he can also obviously be a player finisher, playing off pick and roll with Steph and Jimmy and stuff like that. So Cody says it should have freaking won this one by 10. This sucks. Yep. That's probably a good point to finish up on. Warriors somehow lose by 14 after being up by 7 with 1:43 to go. That's all you need to know. Really disastrous. Turnovers, rotation issues. Very, very disappointing. But let's hope for a bounce back in Brooklyn tomorrow. Much appreciated again, guys.